Since you clicked on this video, I want to make it very clear that it will not be about the usual tips like go deathmatch or play aimbots. There are already plenty of videos about that on YouTube, and I want to focus on less known ways to improve that even some pro players keep secret. And some pro players will also help me go into specifics via clips I found online when they were asked about how they practice. This does not mean I think deathmatching is not good, but I want to give you new ideas and perspective on how to train in CS effectively. So let's start with why training alone is important. There is an obvious answer here that you can do it literally anytime. You don't need anyone else and can get ahead of those who lack discipline in doing these drills. And it is not just about doing them, but also doing them with specific goal in mind, doing them properly. And this video will give you exact actionable ways how to train alone and still improve. But playing alone comes with its difficulties too. You may be very easy to get distracted or even bored, and you will feel like it's not helping you at all. This is where even good methods will feel useless, and that's why you always have to play with intent. You have to set a goal of what you want to practice before you actually start. For example, you're an opera and want to be more stable with flicks. Just loading up aimbots to shoot static target is not going to do much. Two main categories you practice alone are mechanical abilities and in-game knowledge. So for training your flicks, you are improving that mechanical ability. There are certain tools which allow you to train both of these aspects at the same time, like refrag, but more on them later. Let's start with mechanical abilities. This is your aim, your movement, the way you approach fights, and for example, as I mentioned, op flicks. This fits nicely into this, so let's focus on it. Main tool how to improve is to play CS, but if you want to do it alone, workshop maps are the perfect tool to start in chill environment with no threat that lets you lock in specifically on this. Now you probably went, workshop map? That's obvious. I always warm up on aimbots, but I have to be clear. It doesn't matter which map you choose. It's about what you do on this map. To make my point, I will show you an old CSGO clip of James doing his op drills and listen to the explanation how he just doesn't stand in the middle of the map and shoot targets. He makes it as realistic and difficult for him as he can.
There are different techniques and types of shooting. There's no scoping, fast scoping. Maybe you just move while zoomed in and try to aim, or you can try something like this. Basically, you play aggressively, peeking out, and then flick your shots. This map is dedicated only to AWP. Well, of course, you can strafe around with a deagle, but I think that's just practicing some robotic moves. The distances aren't the longest, but here I personally train with just a sniper rifle.
Notice how even in this clip he constantly moves around, trying to make himself hard to hit even though bots don't shoot him back. He constantly uses boxes and walls to isolate duels. Another great way to improve those mechanics is to use Aim Trainer. I spoke about it a lot on this channel, and I'm a firm believer it would help tons of players even at the highest level. As the name suggests, this will only impact your aim, so we ignore movement completely. The main benefit of this is that in aim trainers like MLabs or Kovacs, you can isolate specific aiming technique very easily in order to focus just on that one thing until you make it more natural, more smooth, and eventually make it a habit that helps you win more fights in game. Again, let's hear from Leash on how players benefit from aim training. And I have to say that he was coached by an aim coach just like me, so if you want to see how it all went, the video is in the description, also on the screen.
Well, I think that especially lower level players, I think that it can actually fast track you pretty hard. As long as you're playing the game, like aim training, I don't think that you should really be aim training more than like 30 to 45 minutes a day. I don't think that you need to do that, but I think it's actually really helpful because the benefit is that you can target your weaknesses very well and very specifically.
And overall, these are his final thoughts why you should give Aim Trainer a chance.
So for me, I'm trying to get like that extra couple percent. But if you're a lower level player, I think that can like turn into like a 10 to 20%. And then everything else that you play and you understand is going to help a lot.
Now, we discussed the core identity of Counter-Strike. Mechanics, movement, and aim will always evolve. And if you stop training them for a few days, you will naturally regress. But before we move on to equally important topic of in-game knowledge, let's talk about the tool that literally combines both of these skills. This is probably the most popular third-party tool that players of all levels use. I spoke about it in some of my previous videos, but the refrag really does it all. There are a few different ways how you can use refrag alone and keep improving in game. Most common scenarios that some of you might have seen are those pre-fire or aimbots routines. They're useful, but basic. You can get a lot more value out of tasks which simulates real game scenarios, such as Defender, where you're alone trying to defend part of the map against execute realistic peaks and overwhelming utility used against you, just like in game. Another great tool is called Repeak, which honestly works great in CS2, where you have to be constantly on the move, isolate duels and swing onto enemy, instead of just holding an angle. There are honestly much more that I personally use, and I see a lot of different pro players used to, but one key aspect why refrag is so useful is the variability. The amount of arenas you can spawn in is insane, and on top of that, all of those arenas have slight adjustments against you, so you will never be peaked at the exact same time. This RNG involved is forcing you to be ready for almost anything, which makes it sometimes stupidly difficult, but I would rather have hard time practicing than having a hard time when I'm actually in competitive game. Moving from mechanic drills to those which increase your in-game knowledge, I must mention a couple of things. Playing CS without knowing proper utility can get frustrating real fast, and while you can be proactive and search for this utility yourself in Nader, for example, you can just use community-made lineups that are easy to throw and up to current meta. You can get real nerdy with this, so chances are that if you like nerdy YouTube channel like mine, you will have fun with nades too. Last way to skyrocket your improvements are through 2D demo viewer. If you're alone, I personally love using these to analyze what other top teams do on certain maps. I keep myself in the meta. Sometimes I find great move that I copy and use in my games, or I just gather inspiration of how I want to play in certain situations. It is super underrated way how to improve, and the truth is, a lot of players don't understand how to utilize 2D demo viewers properly, so with a bit of practice, I'm sure you will realize how much it helps reading the game. Before we move, I have to thank Refrag for sponsoring this video, but for full transparency, I would include them into this video even if they didn't, simply because they're uncontested goats in terms of individual drills in Counter-Strike. As you get better in CS, you will start noticing that most of the difference between great players isn't mechanical ability, but in-game IQ combined with knowledge. Despite most players realizing this, the time they spend focusing on knowledge is very disproportional to the impact it has. I'm going to present a multitude of ways to get smarter in-game, most that you probably never do, but you should. The first is theory crafting, and simply said, it represents creative problem solving on an empty server. You can theory craft proactively. For example, you can look for new nade lineups, self-pop flashes, cheeky off angles, or solo plays. Think about scenarios that happen often. For instance, let's say you're an ancient B player. Ask yourself questions: what happens if my cave player dies? What can I do to maximize the probability of winning? Is there any new angle that I can try on a pistol round to get some cheap shots before hiding? You will be surprised how much new stuff you can come up with if you actually try. I call this proactive because you're just trying to be creative without a specific weakness that you intend to fix. In contrast to this, you also have reactive theory crafting. This is when you specifically have a problem that you need to solve. Maybe you're always having a bad time on Banana as CT player on Inferno, or perhaps you're never really able to retake A side when rotating. You should join a server and start thinking and trying out different things to solve the issue you remember. Remember is a key word. At the moment, every time when you screw up, you probably get frustrated for a couple of seconds and then you shrug it off and forget about it. Change it. If you fail horribly at something, write it down on a piece of paper or into a text file. Every week you should have a sizable list of problems that you can attempt to solve in your theory crafting sessions. Doing something like this can literally 10x the speed of your improvement in CS. It's an effective way of getting ahead of most people, as most only fix a mistake after they repeated it 100 times. And for this, you can also create an offline game by navigating to play, practice, selecting competitive and turning on grenade camera, infinite ammo and infinite warm-up. Then just choose a map and go for it. Alternatively, Refrag also provides private servers for this exact purpose. The advantage there is that they have additional features like deleting exploded smokes, for example. So concept of visualization is something that as you progress in higher levels of CS, you will naturally value it more and therefore practice it more. What it is basically preparing yourself for a moment before it even happens. I've seen even Leash talk about this on his channel in some way, but on a small scale, it could mean that you're expecting enemy sitting in a certain angle or a corner and you pre-aim as you peek. On large larger scale, it could mean that you're ready for a certain move or a strat. For example, if you know enemy have a low bio, most likely they won't play slow default round with a lot of utility, but they will try to play fast together and overwhelm you. You actively thinking about these in-game decisions is exactly what this topic is about. Visualizing these scenarios that might not even happen make you calmer as you are in your mind more ready for surprises. Basically, visualization is part of your skill set, just like aim, movement, game sense, communication. And I think this is the big 5 attributes that you constantly need to work on, and often visualization together with communication gets overlooked the most. This is even tied to our previous chapter about proactive and reactive theory crafting. You are becoming ready for some in-game situation by knowing the utility, knowing what spot to take, when to peek, and so on. Another thing I personally love doing is that I'm able to visualize without actually being in-game. Sometimes I just catch myself visualizing a certain tactic in my mind because I practice visualization for years, sometimes unknowingly. It's almost like Magnus Carlsen being able to play chess without actually seeing chessboard in front of him. You can see how powerful this tool can get. And again, most of you watching this video probably do this at some point, but without realizing it. But now you should be more mindful of this. And as I said in the start of the video, these solo drills with intent is just fast tracking you to improve. So sometimes you just don't feel like playing. Even so, in most sports, players also commonly use leisure time to get better by practicing what they call active rest. So rather than wasting time on something that doesn't improve you as a person, for example, doom scrolling, you can just watch educational content or streams of your favorite CS players. Nowadays, algorithms can be molded to always feed you what you want. You just have to take control and tell them that you want CS content. To do this, delete your YouTube history like this and use the search bar to search for some CS related content, like this video for example. Search for a couple of CS videos and your feed will suddenly be filled with only CS content. You have enough fine control to decide if you want purely educational CS content or some CS entertainment content as well. All of this allows you to always be immersed in CS. It doesn't matter whether you're chilling on the couch or if you're only having fun on public transit. You will constantly be exposed to new knowledge and some will inevitably stick, allowing you to use it in game. There is also one trick that no one talks about with videos. You can pretty much hack your motivational system if you're feeling down or demotivated. Just open up videos that focus on what you love about the game. Some people watch frag movies, others watch documentaries or bootcamp videos. You will be surprised how just a few videos can once again create that spark and get you back on track towards your dream. For me, I always love to watch tournament vlogs by best teams such as Spirit, Navi, FaZe or Mouse. Not only to get inspired about in-game things they use, but also to see their emotions and reactions, which ultimately motivates me a lot to achieve such things myself. For my last point, I want to use a clip from recent automatic video. Most of the time I point people towards playing less solo queue in order to improve their team play and cooperation, but there are also instances where solo queue can be beneficial because you have no idea what you're signing yourself up to. This requires you to be adaptable and always make up for weaknesses in any situation. So let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, I normally didn't 5Q, I would like mainly duo Q actually, and then I would 3Q sometimes. And there's a reason for this. I mean, he said it earlier in the video, but adaptability is very, very important, right? So I always took it as a challenge to play with people that I didn't know by solo queuing. And you know, when I solo queue, I'm going to be playing with a lot of different types of players, and I'm going to have shitty teammates, I'm going to have good teammates, I'm going to have people that are really annoying me, and you know, so on and so forth. And I always took it as kind of a challenge to be able to adapt around the people that I'm matched up with, you know. And it's like an in-game challenge because obviously like you have to adapt around the people, their play style, but it's also a mental challenge because someone's annoying you, you gotta know how to deal with it, you know. Someone's doing something that's getting you killed, you gotta learn how to deal with it. And
with that, that's it. I hope you've learned something. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know by liking it and leaving a comment perhaps. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Huge shout out to my Ko-fi members for your continual support so I can make more videos like this for you. Their name is on the screen right now, and if you want to appear here too, check out my Ko-fi page where you can gain tons of cool and exclusive perks at various tiers of membership. And when I say they're cool, I mean it. Give it a look, it's worth it. Thank you for making my content better and possible.